different names, but the core of it remains the same, is that we need to know what you need from us. We want to make sure that we do that in the best and most efficient way. There are microphones all around, so people can hear you online.
Did we do an online check? Able to hear?
Thank you.
Okay, great. So going to be a new challenging part of the next phase is the hybrid. In some ways is harder than the old all in person and what we learned last year all online. So we'll try not to forget you, even though you're all combined on a screen over there. But for those who are here, it's first, it's just great to see everyone and a lot of familiar faces. I think most of you. So it's exciting to be back and have a conversation about how to move the neighborhood. I think with Alkina, we've talked about this, have joined the online versions of this, is that this is really an attempt to bring neighborhoods from across the city together, leadership, to make sure that a lot of common things that exist across the city, as well as different areas have figured out different things, and there's a lot of wisdom to share between neighborhood associations. So we still value coming and engaging the neighborhood associations individually, but we also think there's a great value to bringing everyone together, just so there's a better communication, a better understanding of what's going on across the city, not just your particular area. And with that, we want to make a couple here. One, Common Council is accepting applications for the Community Police Review Board, and I believe that runs next week of the week, this week. But so if you go online, Facebook, we did a post, and the clerk has the office. They've had a post. So if you're interested in applying to that and talk to your Common Council member and do the application online. The other piece is that budget season is almost upon us, and this year's budget will be particularly interesting for all of us because there are a lot of different things coming down, whether it's state programs or federal programs. The rescue plan dollars are just one piece. There's also potentially big infrastructure and the American Jobs and Families Plan that's under debate right now. So both physical and social infrastructure. Congress always, you never know what's going to come out of Congress, but there's a lot of hope that it'll be even more than what's already come down. But what's already moving forward is the American Rescue Plan, and so the states and cities got the resources for that from that. And that'll be, the majority of that will be part of the budget process this year. And so I encourage you to engage in the process. We'll have a number of public meetings. And starting next week, we'll have at least the intro to the Common Council's Finance and Personnel Committee. I believe it's Wednesday. Does anyone know the exact time? Wednesday evening, the first conversation about American Rescue Plan dollars here locally. So one of the challenges, the purpose of these dollars was similar to the CARES Act last year, which was relief and response to COVID. And then the other major component of it is equitable recovery. So how do we build a recovery that's equitable in our city? And so we feel pretty good about where we are in terms of the response and relief, so that there's still work to be done, but we're really able to focus on how do we build toward the equitable future that we all want to get to. So the bulk of the dollars should be able to go toward those types of forward-looking initiatives, which is exciting because that's, there are a lot of things we know we want to do and we just don't have resources for. And so this is the opportunity. So if there's ever a year, I know the budget doesn't sound very exciting, but if there was ever a year to get, stay plugged in on the budget, this is definitely the year, because there's a lot of different things that we're able to do that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So starting next week, and then if you followed the budget process before, the administration releases the first cut, kind of like when the president releases the budget, but this is mid-August, we'll have the first budget, and then we start digging into all the details after that over the next couple months. Has to be passed by the end of October. So it's a 2 to 2 month process and a lot of different meetings, so please stay engaged on that. We'd like to hear your input. We also will have some other ways to get input and hear what the priorities are. And for this group, neighborhoods, we haven't formulated even internally what will be presented in mid-August from the administration side, but we know neighborhoods will be a big focus, and we'll have more resources than we've had in the past for that. So that's, I guess, the highlights, and look forward to that process and working with all of you to transform our neighborhoods. You can still call me James. I do that.
Sure. Again, I'd say we know that this is only the second meeting that we have in the consortium, so I think we're collectively all learning as we go around how is it that we make these meetings the most useful and productive for you guys and for us. So we want to hear what are the issues and the problems that you're encountering, and we want to share with you some of the things that we're doing. I think this year the mayor started one of the largest investments in neighborhood streets in the city's history. It's actually larger than what Smart Streets was. It's $25 million over 3 years in investment in neighborhood streets that, and it was based on the condition for the street. So again, something exciting that most people might not even hear about, but it
budgets
is.
and streets, everyone's most exciting thing. But yeah,
it's
important
for people to hear about. So again, we'll continue walking this path of figuring out how is it that we engage together. I guess I don't know if I'll listen to your cue, but I wanted to share, it's in the agenda about the idea, but how is it that we could structure some grants for improvements and projects? Again, should we do it now or should we do it, wait?
Go for it.
Okay. Try to stay within the boundaries that the team has set for me. But now that I have creative freedom. So, as the mayor said, we have the ARPA funding, and knowing that the neighborhood associations and our neighborhoods have been hit hard by COVID as well, we proposed to the city council doing an appropriation of about exactly $500,000 to be able to support partly the neighborhoods, the neighborhood associations, and the corridors. Unfortunately, it seems that based on the last council meeting, the funding has been delayed a little bit, but we wanted to share with you our thought process around how we thought that go through. So I'll tell you what our idea is, and I'll pause and see what your feedback is to see if that's. So currently the idea would be to structure over a couple of years a program where we let you tell us what are 3 projects that would have a big impact in your neighborhood that would enable you to move the needle, if you will, on things that are important. We've talked to Kennedy Park Neighborhood Association. They've asked about HV, the AC for their neighborhood center, or helping pay back taxes of some of the properties that have been donated to them. There's a number of things that they've expressed need for, and I know that each one of your neighborhood associations have things that you would think that would be beneficial. So the idea would be, we create a very simple form, and if people have issues doing digitally, we would help you make the submission. We would receive the request. We would try to add up so that we have, a budget that is feasible. And we would come back with a couple of options to the group and say, hey, we think that these are a couple of options around how we could spend this funding, informed by your needs, and then we can figure out which of those funds would be given to the neighborhood associations to be executed, or which of the funds would be executed by us. Let's say that some of you want new signs for the neighborhood. We have a sign shop, we could do that work in-house, you know, but to still be within your purview. And anyways, the idea would be to do this for a couple of years because you know better than we do what you need. So we can help find the resources to address those needs and prioritize. So that was part of what was, we see helping you all as being an essential part of the recovery of the city. We want places that are thriving, where people want to be, people want to live. So hopefully the request comes through, but I'll pause and see if, in the interest of engagement, you'd let me know if that's something that seems interesting, or would you want to do it differently? And if so, how would you do it differently?
It sounds good.
Like it?
That gives them options. We have 3 things we can submit, kind of like everybody gets to share their ideas somehow instead of just having to submit one.
Yeah, good, awesome. Any other thoughts?
How do you appropriate this process? Do we just choose neighborhoods?
So we thought, again, that part of the funding request would cover sufficient funding for all the neighborhood associations. We're actually thinking about like there being 2 pots of money, one for the actual residential neighborhood associations and one for the corridors, with commercial corridors. So the East Bank Business Association and River Park Business Association, they're a little bit different. Like you're trying to do grants to help do improvements on businesses. So generally what we presented to council would include money for everyone. Everyone would have at least $5,000 to do it, but obviously some people are gonna come with stuff that, you know, like maybe there's 2 $2,500 projects, maybe some people are gonna have slightly bigger projects, so, you know, but generally the idea is that everybody would have some money to do what you think, but you would be the ones who tell us what you want, and obviously, there's that.
Thank you. I have a question. What you just stated was having money for people that have property, that own property, correct?
No, it would be funding for the neighborhood associations.
But I'm saying for most of those neighborhoods that you had just named to me, basically most of those are homeowners. They're not renters. They're not of low income. Is that correct?
Not necessarily. So the project, again, so the funding would be, what neighborhood association are you with?
I'm from the tenant association.
Okay. Yeah. So again, so if you live, I rent. So let's say that I live downtown, or I live any neighborhood near West Side. If I'm a part of my neighborhood association, which I could be because I live in that neighborhood, and I engage with the leadership of the neighborhood association and say, hey, these are some of the things that I would want to see. Again, none of these money would go specifically to any property owner. It goes to the neighborhood. So like, again, like you want planters in the neighborhood. So you want it along a particular corridor, or you want signs, or you want,
You want to improve the environment. That's within
Yes.
the neighborhood.
yes.
I didn't come up to say that it wasn't just deal with groups of people that was in ownership more so.
Yeah.
It's taking care of those environments that with ownership have.
Yes. Where
Okay.
people live.
Okay. That wouldn't, let me give you an example. That wouldn't include the people like, Prairie Apartments or Miami Hills. They're inner community within themselves. They're in a housing community within themselves, separate from the outside community, which has renter and ownership around it.
So, Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
that would be a part of all of our roles here, in particular yours, because you're renters and renters. But in the sense that we know that we only have 50% of the city covered in geographic sense.
Exactly.
Our organization. So, what we're all in sense of outcomes, we're not just trying to give money to you. The goal is that there's a reason for people to show up to this table. So,
Yeah.
you have reason to engage with us because we're listening to you, because we're putting resources on the table, whether it's stamps, whether it's $5,000 for a new neighborhood sign, or $10,000 for an HC, I don't know how much that costs, but at any rate, that's the, we know that there's a gap there and that we have to do. get through that. And we probably should have, gone through around the introductions of who's actually in the room. So if we can just hit that part of the agenda so
Okay.
people know
I'll be back to
who
you.
is in the room. But I do want you to be assured that we will not be renters out of this conversation, and that a goal of this is to improve geographic diversity across the city, but also diversity within each organization. So at Kennedy Park, we know that likely there's still a 50-50 renter to homeowner, right?
Yeah.
But the organization itself is mostly all homeowners. So how do we help Kennedy Park get more renters into their association? I think that we want to talk about too, because we know that that's been concerns and things that you addressed.
Okay, I'll ask my question after you get done with your round.
Okay.
And I did have one more.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you wanna go do introductions, Monique?
Hello everyone, my name is Dominique Edwards. I'm the city's new engagement specialist on the Engagement and Economic Empowerment team. So we're going to go ahead and do a round of introductions, beginning with Ms. Wilson. And then we're going to go around the table, and then we'll wait on the outside. And then we'll also acknowledge our folks that are coming in virtually as well.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wilson. I'm part of the Far Northwest Neighborhood Association. Is that all?
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa DeBerry. I reside in the Kennedy Park neighborhood area. That's it.
Andrea Rogers, near West Side.
Donnie Rogers, also near West Side.
Margie Files, Monroe Park.
Paul Sims, President, Kennedy Park Neighborhood Association.
Mary Bundy, Howard Park Neighborhood Association.
Carrie Marks, River Park Neighborhood Association.
Sandy, interested citizen, here's the guest.
Jan Kimbrough, here's the guest. Lynn Collier, South Parkwell.
Catherine Lambert, I'm Executive Director of South Bend Consortium.
I'm Eric Johnson, representing the East Bank Business Association.
Fred Teague, representing the Southeast Side, organized area residents. SOAR.
Oh, my name is Rodney Gatson from the South Bend Tenant Association.
Chris Thompson, Vice President of Kennedy Neighborhood Association.
Lucy Wigfall, Board of Directors, from the KPJ Park.
Joe Walker, Park Association.
Those of you who are otherwise to speak up, or the people online can't necessarily hear all of you.
My name is Baye Sylvester, I'm Lincoln Village Park Neighborhood Association.
Mary Gannon, Kennedy Park Neighborhood Association.
Catherine Brown, Kennedy Park Neighborhood Association.
Briefly introduce yourself online. We should be able to hear you. Sorry, Patty.
But I think I heard you say, introduce yourself, those of you online. If that's not what you said, I apologize for interrupting, but that's what it sounded like. So I'm Denise Wicker, and I represent the Rum Village Neighborhood Association.
Thank you.
I'm Charlotte Pfeiffer. I represent 466 Works.
I'm Marlena Johns. I'm with Neighborhood Services and Enforcement, formerly Code Enforcement.
My name is Marilyn Gushaw, and I'm representing Lincoln Bendix Park Neighborhood Association.
My name is Andre Northern. I am the community organizer for the Near Northwest neighborhood.
Greg Reiner for the River Park Business Association. Luella Webster, Patty Walsh, Northeast Neighborhood.
Jenica Lipitor, I'm with
Miami
the
Village Neighborhood
LGBTQ Center. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Jenica Lipitor, I'm with the LGBTQ Center.
Debbie Applegate with the Miami Village Neighborhood Association. Oh, this is Meredith with the City of South Bend, the Director of Neighborhood Development.
Program Director.
Nikki Falmouth, the Director of Community.
Program Expert, City of South Bend, also your website.
Before I kick it to Dominique, I just want to share, we're still getting through, we're getting to the tough questions. But now we're really in the sense of organizing and trying to get you guys the resources that you need to do the work that you need to do. So you might know that they're not just neighborhood associations. There's the tenant associations, there's the public housing authority, there's the LGBTQ center. We have invited our allies on the side who is not with us this evening. There's business associations. We are trying to reach all of the neighborhood serving organizations as well as still the representation gap that the organizations have expressed to us exists. So, Dominique can go forward with the on the guidance principles that we had a working group volunteer on. So after this meeting, we're pretty much taking off the training room, and I think people have really developed a great model that works really well and be used to those questions and answers that you spoke to.
Yeah, so we have, you know, as in our first meeting that we assembled the guiding principles for leaders. So I'm going to go ahead and allow for the guiding principles for leaders to provide us an update on what they have been working on. So Ms. Denise Wicker, Stacey Odom, Ms. Linda. So if you guys have anything to provide us in regards to an update, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So this is Denise Wicker. I'd like to say we had a great turnout. Everybody was wonderful. It just didn't happen that way. So one of the big things that we kind of came up with, I know that in the bylaws, it talks about having a president, vice president, and a secretary. But we kind of feel that it should be more of a, I don't want to call it a council, but a group of perhaps a subcommittee type, whatever you want to call it, of 5 to 7 people. So you still have that tie-breaking vote to make sure that we keep people engaged. And out of that, I would say maybe 7. We'd like to allow for there to be a vote on 5, but I myself and Stacy would really like to be part of that 7 to make sure 100% this keeps moving forward. We started with a group. I think we, at that first meeting, were able to, we'll say, talk enough people into being part of the guiding principles group, but we ended up with 2. Myself and Leslie Odom, or I'm sorry, Stacy Odom. Leslie did join us on one call, but that was that. I don't know if she just didn't have time to meet with us. So we do kind of feel a little passionate about that, of having met probably 4 or 5 times since the last discussion with the entire neighborhood consortium. We'd like to make sure that this just keeps moving forward. So instead of just having a triad of you know, president, vice president, secretary, have a group of people so that if someone doesn't show up, there's still other people to pull that weight and get that done. Stacy, did you want to add to that? Let me say my favorite government line. Stacy, you must unmute your own microphone.
Okay. The second thing would be the point system. There's a point system, and that's so that everyone would take the meeting seriously and attend, or either have their neighborhood representative attend. And the way the point system would work is you would get points for attending each section. And after that, if there were like a grant or something that maybe 2 or 3 neighborhoods were applying for something, then they would
I would like myself and Stacy, since we've done this work, to keep this moving, to be part of that 7, you know, and if at some point, if it really does pick up and people are really engaged and really following through, then we can reevaluate that. But I feel like if we just throw it out there, we're just lobbing it out into the universe, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that someone's following through with the things. And then we had also talked about the month, or was it every quarter meetings, and a different neighborhood being responsible for that meeting. And I know that Alex, you had talked about perhaps creating a pseudo agenda that people could follow if they felt like they weren't quite sure what they needed to bring to the meeting. And I think that's everything. And the point system, just so I think, if everybody hasn't read the bylaws, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the point system is already in the bylaws. We were just trying to figure out exactly what did that mean, what kind of point system was that, and that's where that information came from. It's not from Stacy and I going, oh, we're going to give people points if you show up. That was already there.
Right.
So that's all I have to say.
If anybody's a little bit confused, we have copies of the guiding principles document here.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to check one out right now? So the point system relates to you're speaking and participating, you get higher points on the metrics or grading system that we'll have on the grant program. In the sense of not wanting presidents or sort of executive committees, that relates to not wanting splittiness among any group or neighborhood so that no one sort of controls the balance of power here. And looking rather, instead of at that more organizational structure, just looking at, okay, can one neighborhood volunteer to host each meeting, so that the goal is to just keep us meeting as opposed to worry about votes and minutes and all these things. So before we leave tonight, the goal is to have a neighborhood volunteer to host our next in-person meeting. Our team will support you if you guys can make it a hybrid meeting, support you in getting out the agenda and pulling that together, and also pulling together the technology.
And anyone can attend those meetings no matter what neighborhood association they're.
So the neighborhood organization representatives or their alternates is how we define the structure of the meeting. Tonight, we have a bunch of folks from Kennedy Park, because we just had a planning meeting in Kennedy Park. That's fantastic, but I don't think that's what we should take that as normal. I think we're ready to move on to the next section. I did want to highlight the idea of sort of subcommittees, because the next section is related to topics that you all have told us you're interested about. So if we wanted to have a subcommittee on any of these topics, and there's people who have particular interest in gun violence, who have a particular interest in the budget, which came up tonight, and we don't know when the next meeting is, so we should have a committee that's working on the budget and helping us know when the next meetings are. But out of the budget for neighborhoods. Thank you, Santi. And we're gonna work on the hybrid meeting tech. Dominique, you got the floor.
So, you may have seen, hopefully, a couple of you have provided us with your feedback via the Doodle poll that we sent out a while back in regards to some of the topics that you wanted to discuss in future meetings. So we have those results available for you, for this meeting. And in regards to future meetings, some of the top things that folks were looking into were the fact that we wanted to have, to discuss grants for improvements and projects. That was number 1. Economic growth came in at number 2. And gun violence and public safety came in, as number 3. So now I'm going to throw it over to my colleague, Martin Mecklenburg, to talk about the service catalog.
You guys all have really pretty hard copies in front of you. Folks online, you got an email, but you'll want to get a hard copy because it's cute.
So, hi everyone. My team gave me sort of the best job of the night, because we've been working really hard for the last few months to develop the service catalog, which I think is in front of everyone. The idea of the service catalog is it's sort of the pair to Santi's bigger vision grant money. This is sort of nuts and bolts money that neighborhood organizations need to do their business. So it's little things like helping with printing, helping with canvassing, helping get a website set up, helping with social media services, kind of the helping with, I said canvassing already, like small things that neighborhood organizations need to build capacity or to be successful in the work that they're trying to do. So the offer here is that all of these services in the catalog are available to all neighborhood organizations, and we will be happy to help you with any of the services listed in there. There's a lot of good things. Some of them are just boots on the ground help. Some of them come with some dollar amounts, some matching dollar amounts. Like there's a T-shirt one. If your neighborhood wants to do T-shirts for a cleanup day, we'll help match the cost of doing T-shirts for your neighborhood to have a sort of branded neighborhood cleanup day, for example. We hope that this catalog is full of the kinds of things that your organizations need to build capacity, increase your strength as an organization, reach out to your neighbors. And I know I used to run the Near West Side neighborhood organization, and capacity building was always a question, right? Reaching out to folks, figuring out proper modes of communication was always a concern, always a challenge. So these kind of services are designed to help you with that. There are a couple of them that are sort of in the works. Like on page 2, it says coming soon, is the idea of a party trailer, which we're working on. But that will be something that you can check out if you want to throw a block party in your neighborhood, and it will be full of things to help you support that party. So that one's in the works. We also have a public art one that we're working on, which probably won't be ready until the fall. And then there's one on demographics. We want to help provide demographic information for neighborhoods who want that. Sometimes it's hard to understand what's even happening in your neighborhood in terms of who's renting, who's not renting, what are some of the breakdowns. Census data is supposed to come out in August. So in August, we'd like to provide that service to help neighborhoods better understand what's happening in their geographies. So some of you have already been using some of the services in the catalog. We've helped people with printing, we've helped people with canvassing, we've helped people with social media and websites, but we hope all of you start reaching out to us and taking advantage of these services. There is going to be a link on our website, which is going to be live tomorrow or by Friday at the latest, where you can fill out an application for any of these things, and we will do our best to get back to you and provide the support. Are there questions about that?
Yeah.
Feel free.
Question I would have is, since we cover pretty much the whole city.
Yeah.
Neighborhood Association. I'm working on a project right now, actually 2 housing communities. One is from Prairie Apartments, which I'm working with STL, that owns that site.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do community building. We already did our services, we already did our training. We understand that we have goals in place and even to work with First Source Bank to start working in affordable housing, transitioning from being in low income to home ownership. The question would be, we'd like to do us a little party sometime in June or August. How would you help with that?
Well, I think the party trailer, for example, could be open for exactly that kind of activity. Most of these services are designed for neighborhood organizations a little more specifically, but there's no reason that we can't work with you to make most of the services available to the jobs and the efforts that you're doing as well.
Because that's one of the things I would like to get in
Yep.
contact with you.
Yep.
If this is successful with them, I've already got, Miami Hills working.
Yep.
And I know we say we're South Bend Tenant Association, but I've been reached out to, Cedar Hills Apartment,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a couple of issues out, all in the Mishawaka area too, I gotta deal with.
Well, we want the trailer to be used, for example, the party trailer, so, you know, there may be some scheduling negotiations that we have to do, but it's a great effort and it's a great way to get people out, especially post-COVID.
I think, there's a larger question that I would ask the group to help us think about, because it is a big question, is what, right now we're saying that there's all these services and potentially some of these grants for associations, but I don't think that we have a good framework to decide what is a neighborhood association, who can access these different services. That's a great question that you're asking about. So in some sense, like when we started this group, the thought was we want to encourage more neighborhood associations. We think neighborhood associations are great because it makes people meet each other. It makes people organize and try to prioritize what are the things that they're trying to do. And we know that not every part of town has a neighborhood association, but that some parts of town might have more than one neighborhood association.
Exactly.
So, ultimately, I think like our idea for the time being with this, like if you're invited, if your organization is represented in this meeting, you can request the services from the service catalog. But one challenge that I would ask the group, especially the committee that now that we've moved away from having the president, but also the secretary, is how would we certify that a neighborhood association is a neighborhood association? How is it that we can encourage areas that don't have neighborhood associations to create neighborhood associations? Ultimately, you're right, like there's parts of town that might not be able to access these resources. But in some sense, from our perspective, we make this resource available partly because we want to encourage people to organize these neighborhood associations.
Yes.
So, you guys do great stuff for your peers, for your other residents, whether they're renting or they own property in the neighborhood, that's where they live. So I would leave that as a good challenge of thinking. That's a tough one. We don't have a straight up answer, but I think that I would encourage whoever the committee is to help formulate that for people to be.
In the sense of this service catalog, everyone here is eligible. So I think we've also sent emails requesting W-9s from most of you for the $1,000. The folks that have been omitted from that group are folks that are eligible for other larger pots of money that have other certifications like CDCs or CHOTOs, so they don't really need the $1,000 grant.
And again, so for us, we would think about it this is why, like when we were talking about like the grant funding, residential neighborhood organizations are one of a kind. There's business associations, usually associated with a business district or a corridor. They're kind of one of a kind. And then there's other organizations that cover across the entire city, which are, and again, they're all important to us, but they play slightly different functions. And some of the service catalog and some of them are definitely targeted towards the residential neighborhood association.
I have something. That's an issue I've been dealing with. It's been all over the map. Everybody is trying, but, as you said, we define you. And it, I think this association should have actual residents. That may be business that's in that neighborhood. Business has a different agenda. And so, and a housing association has a different agenda. Any housing going. And everybody has different ideas. Ultimately, I think an organization that is backed by the city, has more clout in declaring, okay, so we all agree, this is what a neighborhood association is, this is what a business association is. And having that clout of some kind of agreement from the city, which.
That's a great point. I would say maybe my challenge to the group and folks would be to think, maybe we need to think about it for the business associations, and we have a couple of them here. Think about like what makes a business association for the residential builders associations. And I think like what we want to do is encourage dialogue, and again, we don't have the answer. You also think about what you think is the right answer. How do we define that the neighborhood association is active or not active? We have some ideas, but I think that it'd be great if by next meeting you have some ideas around like, and you can try to come up with ideas for all three, or you can just focus on like one of the pieces of the puzzle. But yeah, but that'd be really helpful.
No.
I agree with what you're saying in theory. I truly do. There is a divide by number. If you want to look at census or whatever report, there's a divide between ownership and renters.
Mm-hmm.
And a disparity in between middle class, poor, and I even call it poor, P-O, poor, P-O-R, or broke people. There's a disparity in between those. And within there, sometimes they do not feel, but I can say the tenants, do not feel inclusive within their own community that they have the association with. In our organization, we don't do such. We're part of every neighborhood. Yes, for one. That's what I had this in mind and body and envisioned when I created the South Bend Tenant Association.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want that divide as you speak. I want all people being inclusive. I don't care what your gender is, I don't care if your race, I don't care if your economic stature, part of it I do, because I want you to get out of the lower income status into the working class status to be better citizens, to be better taxpayers. That's the vision that we have. So we go in there teaching. We literally go have classes on stewardship, we have classes. I think the companies defining themselves as an association, they should have a resume to show what they did in the community. Like we did food drives in every part of this city last year during the pandemic.
We want to get money so everybody can do more.
That's what I'm saying, so.
Yeah. A lot of folks don't have the capacity, maybe you have more, and that's fantastic. We want to give you more to do more, and we hope that you collaborate with some of the neighborhoods here to break those boundaries, because I think we have the same goals. But we do have to.
We had one more question over here.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, what he was talking about is that when I lived in Indianapolis, I feel like there was more signage. So when you're driving around, I'm like, oh, Irvington on that house, there's an Irvington. I'm like, I must live in Irvington. Like, I just moved there. You don't know your surroundings. I cross over a major street and everybody has Little Flower all over their house. I'm like, oh, I must be in Little Flower now. Like, if you're moving around and you're renting, you might not even know where you are.
Yeah.
So I know it doesn't have to be on every house, but there was like historical signs but it always had the name of where you work, so you were aware of.
Yeah.
So I feel like signage is important to get people just know the areas.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Gadsden, I'm not disagreeing, we're just having to move along.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to be in charge of the subcommittee for sure.
Right.
We all agree.
Yeah. Fred had his hand raised too. Yeah.
I will say, other ends of the coin that you're referring to, like in our neighborhood, we're pretty active. We get out, we knock on doors. We try every possible way to let people know that SOAR is the Southeast Side Neighborhood Association. We do annual picnics for the neighborhood. But what we see is very poor turnout, no matter how much. So, the onus, absolutely, we want it to be inclusive. And I also believe that when it comes to the business corridor throughout the communities, I feel like to be a part of that, to be able to reap the benefits of what the council is offering, they should also be pouring back into the neighborhood. I have not seen one business as a part of our corridor actually attend the meeting. So I think it goes hand in hand when you talk about defining what is the neighborhood association and what are the requirements of it. If you can't get the people, the tenants that are not homeowners, are renters, but when we're not closing the doors and saying, hey, this is your neighborhood association. We have a meeting every second Tuesday of the month at 6 o'clock. That's showing up. Then we have to come up with other solutions for making sure they are being included because we're offering that, but they're not showing up.
Have you ever tried to survey?
We've done surveys, we've done door to door. I've been.
You've done a lot.
And up to the Wednesdays, I don't think we can move, as if we're tight on time.
Sorry.
Won't get through the agenda. But this is the point of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it so that when you go, you guys are meeting, when you're meeting with other neighbors, say, hey, you care about this? I have a standing meeting with the mayor every quarter. I can tell him what's bothering you. And we want to be able to provide the resources because, talking is nice, but money is better. Be able to actually put designs or do whatever it is that is important to you. Every neighborhood is different. The priorities are going to be different. But that's kind of what we're hoping to do here. You have a venue to talk to the mayor, and hopefully, as we get better at this.
And the city staff.
And city staff, who will actually do you have a number of people here that are working hard, trying to figure out, and hopefully as we go along, we'll do more of the listening, more of the talking, and you tell us what you want, and we try to get the ball.
Absolutely.
Do we need to move to the next,
We should switch over. I just wanted to say really quickly, I know, that Alkina mentioned we don't have there are a few organizations. So everybody who's participating, every neighborhood organization, sorry, Rodney, who is participating, we wanted to give a $1,000 grant to for participation. A few of you, we have your information for and your W-9s and your bank account information. A couple of you, we don't. So if you haven't had a chance to submit that, or if you want to ask questions about what's needed, you can talk to me, you can talk to Alkina, talk to these guys up here. But we want to make that happen before the October meeting if we can for you. So that's in addition to everything that's in the service catalog. What's that? I think we already have yours. But the deadline is, there's no deadline.
As soon as possible.
I believe that I received something from Alex stating that they still have, unless they've done it recently. Lauren.
From SOAR?
Yeah, we still need to.
Okay, I guess we still need yours, yeah.
should we make it July 30th? Not
Yeah.
Official deadline to make it July 30th for the people that haven't been able to get it in. Sounds reasonable?
Sometimes having a deadline is useful, so if you want a little fire under you, that's a good one to go, but, yeah.
I think it's automatically, you don't have to fill out an app for it, do you?
For what?
The 1,000?
No,
So the neighborhood association would submit the W-9 that gives us the tax information, says like we give the money not to a neighbor of the neighborhood association, but to the neighborhood association. So we need the tax information for the neighborhood association, so we can actually give the grant.
Yeah.
Where?
You can give it to any of us here. You can give it to me, you can give it to Alkina, you can give it to, Alex, who's been writing a lot of the emails.
I think that we should clarify that it's just for neighborhood associations,
Yeah.
and not neighborhood-based organizations. So like, the Tenant Association, the LGBTQ Center, South Bend Heritage, the NNN don't qualify. So if you have questions about whether you qualify, then reach out to
For
us.
the neighborhood association, so EEE team and it's EEE at South Bend IN.gov.
Yep, yep. Yep, exactly. So if there are any questions, really, pin us down after the meeting, we'll work with you to figure it out.
And
So,
again, they're all, we're trying to have together, we have a lot of, we have businesses, residential neighborhood associations, and associations that are interested in all this work as well, so we'll figure it out, and we used to have focused subcommittees.
I hope this looks good. Okay, excellent. So, sorry, go ahead.
Do you have more than one neighborhood association inside of a neighborhood?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, and I think that goes back to what Santi's asking too, is like, we gotta figure that out as a group.
So right now, there are already some areas where there's multiple neighborhood associations.
There's some overlap. Yeah, there's some overlap. Yeah.
Now, the neighborhood associations that are going to be considered for this and for any money for this year are the neighborhood associations that are already recognized. So if you're in this room, your neighborhood association has been recognized as a neighborhood association. Going into the future, we're asking you to help us think about how did we address the fact that there are overlaps. And ideally, there would be one neighborhood association serving any given area, right? It would be more than one. There also would be at least one that would be representing you. So the resources and all the resources are distributed differently. We don't know how it's best to do that, so we're asking you to come up with some ideas about that.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's challenging. So it's pull away capacity from other organizations that help, like, we don't know who to talk to. So the goal is to structure, communications and keep it, hopefully one organization per boundary as we work on the problem.
But it is a tough problem to answer. It's not easy, so we're not gonna, we're gonna let you fix it. Okay, we'll have it.
So we have Tim, who's our director.
Yeah, I see some very familiar faces in the room. Are you, okay, it should be showing. We are queuing up a presentation that is kind of a hybrid presentation that we've given to council and some of the neighborhood organizations already.
Right, if you're looking for the restroom, outside on the left.
Are we ready to go? Yeah. Okay, I think so. Can I just hit a down button somewhere? All right, so thanks, Alkina, Mayor, for having me here tonight. The planning department, planning team has been working from late last year through this year on 4 neighborhood plans for the city. Those neighborhood plans this year include the Northeast neighborhood, the Near West Side, Kennedy Park, and Rum Village, in an area we're calling Rum Village Extended, as a way to help capture some of the areas that are not covered by a neighborhood plan, but also one of the things that is missing is sometimes there's gaps between neighborhoods where people aren't represented, so we're trying to figure out ways that when we put these boundaries together to make sure that there are no gaps left and so that we're able to cover as many people as possible. So what is a neighborhood plan? So a neighborhood plan is a shared vision for the future. This is a 20-year, up to a 20-year plan. It's an amendment to the city's comprehensive plan, and so it becomes part of the comprehensive plan of the city. What that means is that's how a neighborhood plan gets some force and weight behind it and allows us to make decisions based on that plan. It's a statement of what the neighborhood wants to achieve and a strategy of how to reach those goals. It's a guide for making decisions. This is really important for city departments, common council, and other partner stakeholders. It's a broad framework for future development and a starting point for more detailed planning and individual projects as they are pursued by private, nonprofit, and city entities. But most important, it's a plan to address neighborhood-specific issues and concerns and to build on what makes each neighborhood a special place to live. Some of the elements of a neighborhood plan include infrastructure, housing, parks and open space, land use, zoning, building types. Again, but all of these things are underpinned by what makes that neighborhood a special place. One of the ways that we sort of try to hold ourselves accountable to the neighborhood plans that we've already done and the ones that we will be doing this year and in the future is to develop what we call a neighborhood plan scorecard. This is an example of the Southeast neighborhood where we show the boundary of what the neighborhood plan encompasses, a plan progress bar in the middle here, and our scorecard criteria. And these are based on the plan's implementation matrix that goes with every plan. So these are things that we agree to through the planning process as to what are some of the things the city is going to initiate, but also these initiatives can be stakeholder driven or neighborhood association driven, what we call partner driven initiatives. So we track the city-led initiatives here as a way to keep ourselves accountable to the things that we said that we would do. Sometimes because these plans do take a long time, priorities that were something that people thought were important 10 years ago turn out to not be important today, but other priorities may have risen to the top. So we do try to balance those things as we go.
Is that building the rendering of the movie?
That's an old rendering, but it's, yeah, so it's not the newest imagery, but it's
An old rendering of the new community center?
correct. Yeah, so the new building looks a little bit different than this. One of the ways that we've been working to get as much feedback for the 4 neighborhood plans that we're doing this year, we have a variety of ways that we've been trying to garner your input. One, you might have seen some on the upper left here, some neighborhood signage that we've been putting out throughout each neighborhood. We've done a letter to every resident or property owner in the 4 neighborhoods. This is over 9,000 letters have been sent by our department. We've got one of the planner, his tongue is gone. He can't lick any more stamps and envelopes. He's dead. So, but we had a flyer that went out as part of the EEE team's incremental development conference that they did in July. And we've done some social media posts, a press release, and all of these things are trying to help get people to know that these plans are happening and to point them to an online engagement platform that we've developed in order to get a survey that's online. There's a mapping tool that goes with it as well, so people can leave comments related to specific areas. So they can, if they have a comment, they can tell you exactly where that comment relates to. Right now, we're in the starting off the public engagement side of this. We've already done a lot of stakeholder engagement to date. We've had a lot of virtual meetings with stakeholders of each of these neighborhoods. We've talked to every neighborhood association, sometimes more than once. And what we've been kind of waiting for is a moment in which we all felt more comfortable being together in the same room with each other. For us to do more in-person engagement. Some of the stakeholders that we've already spoken to, this is just sort of a broad range, so it's neighborhood associations, community organizations, businesses, developers, church and faith-based organizations, council members, Indiana Landmarks, Bike Michiana Coalition, Transpo, South Bend Heritage Foundation, University of Notre Dame, South Bend Housing Authority, South Bend School Corporation, and the relevant city departments that would be part of each of these planning efforts, including Public Works, Code Enforcement, and Venues, Parks, and Arts. I could probably go through this, but basically through the stakeholder engagement, broader themes have arisen. In the Near West Side, a lot of that, there's items revolving around infrastructure and connectivity, specifically traffic calming, lights, curbs, sidewalks, streets. These are some things that come up probably in every survey that we do in the city. And so we are trying to really focus on the neighborhood specific issues rather than the broad scale things that we know every neighborhood wants to address. And for instance, the streets plan is one of those ways that we're trying to address streets at a city scale rather than try to do it spot by spot, which doesn't you know, has some equity issues that usually go with that as well. So we want to try to tackle neighborhood-specific issues, but also understand the issues that are at a broader scale so that we can try to put our minds together to figure out those big picture items. Beautification, cleaning up of lots and vacant lots, homeowner repair of occupied houses. There's thoughts about open space, development and growth for affordable versus market rate housing, and other things about perception of crime and brownfield concerns. For Kennedy Park, a lot of some of the things we've heard were expansion of services at MLK Center and amenities around that, connection to the Kennedy Park green space, perhaps grants for low-cost beautification projects. On the development side, Linden Avenue has been something that the neighborhood has talked about a lot as part of a centerpiece or a focal point within the Kennedy Park neighborhood in which businesses that used to be there as a way to try to attract businesses back to that area. Again, beautification, trash, litter pickup, maintenance of vacant lots, and working with code enforcement on efforts to try to address hot spots within the neighborhood. Food security was an issue that's come up, and always the infrastructure and connectivity, curb, sidewalk, streets, lighting. Northeast, a diversity of housing stock to help address housing affordability, which has become more of an issue in that neighborhood. Commercial amenities, understanding what the future of Pearly School might be, and really important, ensuring that coordinated land uses as new buildings and development continues to happen in that neighborhood. Connectivity to downtown, between the campus and downtown, and how we can make that connection and really help bring these two anchors within our community and perceptually closer together. Enhance the pedestrian experience along Eddy Street. Eddy Street is making it a safer place to cross, as we're seeing that Northeast neighborhood is on both sides of Eddy Street, but Eddy Street's a real barrier in that neighborhood. Improve access to the parks in the area. And again, there are pockets of crime and violence that they've brought up. Rum Village, infrastructure, lighting, curb, sidewalks again, streetscape improvements on Indiana Avenue. Most people don't know, Rum Village used to be its own municipality, and that was absorbed into South Bend, you know, a long time ago. And Indiana Avenue was the main street of Rum Village, which is why it's got that sort of fine-grained commercial properties, mostly on the south side of the street at the moment. But they really see Indiana Avenue as being a focal point of their neighborhood, even though it's kind of on the northern edge of Rum Village. So looking at ways that we can help address the issues surrounding Indiana Avenue. Housing, always an issue in every neighborhood, but promoting home ownership, repair of existing homes, transportation and connectivity is an issue, parks and open space. Walker Field is a great park in the neighborhood, but it's kind of a little bit disjointed, and how do we reutilize the Walker Field Field House, which is a WPA structure built in the 20s or 30s, and see how we can reutilize that. We're looking at, we've already got, I think, I can't confirm this, but I can't deny that we have maybe gotten a grant to help with that, so it just hasn't been released yet. Litter and illegal dumping were also an issue there. So some of the next steps that we're going to do for each of these neighborhood plans is in-person workshops. And the first workshop we're calling a neighborhood visioning workshop, where we go and do a similar exercise that we've done with stakeholders, but with residents. So we want to get resident feedback and to talk about strengths and weaknesses of their neighborhood, things they like, things they wish they'd like to change, and do it in a group format so people can have that interaction with each other and city staff. Following up with that, we want to do a neighborhood priorities workshop in which we start by saying, by basically trying to say, repeat back the things that we've heard from the neighborhoods to see if we've, one, understood and listened, and if there are things that are missing, get those back on that list, and then look for ways to prioritize some of the issues that have come up through the neighborhood, so that the neighborhood plan can then address some of those issues and put them in priorities that the neighborhood sees as important. Okay. Now it won't go down. There.
Trying to go down.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to be doing to advertise each of these in-person workshops is there's a postcard going out. The first workshops to happen are the Near West Side and the Northeast, followed up by Rum Village and Kennedy Park, probably in September, October. So everybody of those 9,000 people that we've mailed before, those 9,000 more postcards are going out to get people to know that these workshops are happening. There will be a virtual option as well as an in-person, so that we can try to capture as many voices as possible. So at the moment, in the Near West Side, the visioning workshop is Tuesday and August 3rd and August 10th. So there's 2 opportunities to participate in that. From 6 to 7:30, and that's at the Civil Rights Heritage Center. And then a couple weeks later, the Priorities Workshop, August 24th, 6 to 7:30 at the Civil Rights Heritage Center. The Northeast Neighborhood, the Visioning Workshop is Tuesday, August 5th and 12th from 6 to 7:30 at St. Joe High School. And the Priorities Workshop, August 26th at 6 to 7:30, also at St. Joe. All of this said, we have an online engagement platform called Together South Bend. The address is together.southbendin.gov. That's where each of anybody that belongs to the neighborhoods that we're working on this year can log in. You register, you can go in and take a survey that we've developed in that mapping tool that I spoke about earlier. And when you register, it allows us to be able to communicate back when, for instance, those workshops are happening. We can send an email blast out to the people who've registered, again, as a way to get people to those meetings. We also know, though, that not everybody has a computer or a phone to be able to participate in those, in these surveys. So we have paper copies available on request. I think we have, in my bag, I've got some flyers that I can give to people here from those 4 specific neighborhoods that you can then distribute to people that you know. There's an email address and a telephone number to call if you want one of those surveys. I think that's the end. So thank you for the opportunity to present tonight, Alkina.
Another couple.
Yeah. Sure.
So again, you see the neighborhood plans are great. They're also expensive and take a lot of time and effort. So you see, like it's exciting for those of you that are going through a neighborhood planning process. It's exciting for you if you are not part of the neighborhood that has a neighborhood plan. We're working, again, we can't afford, the cost of over $100,000 to do each one. Five neighborhoods.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sometimes less than. We're trying to figure out ways to do more of the work in-house. So, and use consultants a little bit more strategically in terms of gaps that we don't have in-house or don't have the time to do. So really the cost comes down to the capacity of the people that we have in place to organize, to collect the data, and do all the work behind the scenes.
So my point being, if we're looking at doing at least maybe 2 plans, all of this is contingent on the council approving the budget. So similar to the grants, it depends. But we're thinking about 2 neighborhoods. We've heard that LaSalle Park and some others have expressed interest in doing a neighborhood planning exercise. So again, in Monroe Park, I've heard some interest there. So again, we don't have funding to do everything at once, but it is important for you, if you're interested in having a neighborhood plan, and it is very important to have an active neighborhood association, so it makes the process also much easier. So just as we go into the future, it'd be helpful if you are interested in this kind of process to let us know, and we can start working around like in the next, like in the future around like when something like that might happen. And for those of you that are going through one of these, I know that it can be frustrating. Sometimes you just, talking about things that have been frustrating for a long time and haven't been fixed. But as Tim showed, especially with the neighborhood planning scorecard, we're trying to hold ourselves accountable and make sure that the big things happen. But in those meetings, you also talk about important things. Like the last time that we met in MLK Center, we heard about some of the concerns and some of the issues around the AC, around like the back taxes, around some of these things. So that's part of what helps us know, hey, there's other things that we could actually try to help with without waiting for like something, like monumental, like redoing all, like the streets or doing something big. We can try to help on the little stuff. So
Yeah.
just wanted to.
And I think organizations like this and then the specific neighborhood organizations are really, really important. And so we're really grateful that Alkina and her team are, providing these forums for people and being able to feedback to not just my team, but all the other city teams that might have a role in your neighborhood. And when we have people to speak to, then it's so much better. And we want all those voices to be part of any neighborhood plan, because we need you to help us and for us to help you. So it's a two-way street, and so yeah, we're grateful that you guys are here at the table, spending your time to talk to us so that these can be more successful.
I think that the last point of the agenda is some exciting new things that are happening, partly based on the conversations with some of the neighborhood associations. So, Dominique, I think you're on, right? Sorry, Alkina, I just told your MC.
So the biggest part of this is sharing information. I do want to say that we're probably all going to be frustrated many times when we leave this meeting because there's so much to talk about. But do know that we will follow up, and that since we are looking at committees, so we're also looking at points of virtual connection in between our quarterly meetings so that we can talk through some of the more detail-oriented and thoroughly. Like, this isn't, we don't have to talk about this, because we can do the action. And now we've got resources and money and relationships to push forward the things that are concerning us all. So, that's what I'm most excited about. And, Dominique,
we have one question.
Sure, sorry, we have one question. Thank you, David. Also, shout out to the AmeriCorps members for managing.
Are you ready for my question?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I know this is going to sound really sarcastic, but I'm not trying to be mean. But if you noticed in every one of those neighborhood things, one of the first things that was talked about was lighting and traffic and curbs and sidewalks, but we're not going to address those. So other than an act of God, what do neighborhoods need to do to get those things addressed?
You should ask those questions. So the planning process that we talked about is where you would engage more, and that also if you had questions like, say your neighborhood, they want more lights. So you can talk to us here, and then we'll say, oh, you need to talk to Eric, or, here's Eric in Corbach, somebody works out. So here's Eric and his plan for life. Like that, how does the neighborhood talk to Eric about improving his plan? So also in the neighborhood planning process, like if you don't tell our planners that lighting is an issue, then we don't know. And if it's not part of the legal document, then you as neighborhood association can't come and say, we said we need more lighting and you're not addressing that after, 10 years of this neighborhood plan being implemented. Our planners can come and say, here's the scorecard, and we, worked on putting together all this information, because our support department has been working on that plan, or maybe they haven't. And then that's when we can hold folks accountable. So it's not that this isn't the space to do it, we're just getting started. And it's not sarcastic, we've not done a good job of this. It's not even half of the city's geographic representation, let alone the voices that we need at the table. So we're just getting started on so many things. But hopefully these relationships are the base of sort of moving along those issues and then getting y'all connected to the right city folks. But it's not just that you need to share, we need to share information with people. We also want to know what you're doing so that we can help you more in those things. Because obviously the things that you're doing are like more in line with the things that we need. So that's also good information for us.
Thank you, too.
Thanks, sorry. We'll work on my soft voice too.
And again,
So what I got out of that was be patient and we're working on it and keep working with us.
well, yeah, and again, this is for instance, the investment that the city is making in the streets came precisely from listening to people. Sorry. The investment.
Hybrids will be the hardest, yeah. I mean, every hybrid meeting has been something like this so far, so.
So again, like the investment that the city is doing with the rebuilding our streets comes directly from listening to people be frustrated about the streets. Now, I know the mayor's here, but I know that lighting, curbs and sidewalks are other things that we know, again, like at the city level that are important, and I would imagine as part of the budget process.
So, yeah, I mean, the neighborhood infrastructure is expensive, and we know that historically we haven't had the budget to keep up on it. So similar with the rebuilding our streets plan, we had to find money to and prioritize it to make it available. So similarly, lighting, traffic calm, I mean, these are all, we know that these are issues. Unfortunately, they're not something we can just snap our fingers and turn on them, but we are working to get more resources to address that. In terms of sidewalks, you know, it depends on, you know, what estimates we use. We did a citywide survey of sidewalks a few years ago, and, you know, the cost to do that, you know, is astronomical compared to what the historic budget levels have been for that. So I guess that there was a good takeaway. We know it's an issue, it's a priority, we're working through it, and we look forward to working through it with you, and especially to prioritize, you know, with the limited resources, prioritize where it would have the biggest impact. So where are our worst sidewalks, where are our worst lighting issues, et cetera. Go ahead.
I agree with the lady that she talked about the lighting, because in the LaSalle Neighborhood Association, which I work with the William Ellison tenants over there, if you go to the back of their building, there's hardly no lighting and potholes to be filled in that whole parking area. And there's a lack of security as well in that area that hasn't been addressed. Now, we then went to our city council person. We then went to some of the board members over there at Bradley. We have talked to Lynn Coleman himself concerning the William Ellison tenants and the lighting problem. And if anybody's from the LaSalle Neighborhood Association, they understand the darkness of the dark street that brings crime. Just like on the near north side, my church is right off Van Buren Street. Every other block is dark. Why? Because there's insufficient lighting. I mean, I could take you, Mayor, to 10 streets and we could walk together. And I could show you these streets that I walk through as a church member every week. And I could show you those 10 streets, Cleveland Street, Leland Street, I got it my name, Oak Street, I could tell you Allen Street. Which part do you want me to tell you? The lighting issue has not been totally addressed at all. And whoever's doing the planning, I think that was that gentleman right there, that needs to step up a little bit. Because with darkness come crime. Yeah, the existing, which that hasn't been done, especially near north side, especially the area I'm talking about. Not just because I'm just saying it to say it. I talked to the residents, as you're doing. I talked to the residents there that are having these issues. And I submitted names and stuff to Lynn Coleman and Henry Davis and the Bradley Board. I have gave them sufficient information and documentation of why this is a problem. And still nothing has been addressed to those problems that I'm speaking of. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
And I live in off of Lake Block.
Me too.
Okay. And it's dark.
Yes, it is.
Now, I guess I'm just wondering, what is the process, and who makes the decision on prioritizing where lights go? Since the community for justified now. And if nothing has been done, that's enough. I don't know another way to say that. Then, as a group, kind of, if there's something else we could do other than engineering, listen and say, this is happening in this area again, or it hasn't been corrected. I don't hear the action behind reminding people or the project that this is an issue, and that lady was right. We've been talking about it forever, and we all have the common potholes that because we know it costs a lot of money, and we're waiting for something to come from the feds, and in the meantime, the South Park was put on year 3 of funding to get anything done, and we've been the most neglected forever. However, it's getting done, but in the meantime, are there any steps that what can we do to not burn them up, but, what can we do?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the approach of the streets plan is we're addressing the worst street, we're going after the worst streets and moving up. And so we did, you know, for streets, every year, the team goes out, they're trained how to rate streets, 1 to 10. And so we know, you know, and you can go online on the website and you can see what rating your street is relative to, you can see the whole city. You can look, you know, find whatever street, see what it's rated. And so the idea with the rebuilding our streets plan is we're focusing on the worst first. And so in the next 3 years, which is the plan, and I know Washington Street, your stretch of Washington is on year 3, but that's because as bad as it is outside your house, there are a lot of streets in years 1 and 2 that are actually worse than the streets that's outside your house. So we'd want to do a similar approach with neighborhood infrastructure where it should be equitable across the city and find where is it worst. And, you know, we know it's not, there are a lot of places, there's a lot of need, but we want to try to do this in a fair and systematic way so that it's not just.
Yeah, I think Mr. P wants to answer some pieces, and then I'll get there.
Yeah, I can speak from my own experience of getting more lighting on the southeast side, and I think, well, for one, you want to get your councilman involved, whoever that is. So we did that, but then we actually went around our community and we actually created a heat lamp to determine where every light was out at. And what we realized is that sometimes it wasn't that there wasn't a light, maybe it just needed a bulb replaced, or the canopy needed to be trimmed around the light, or there weren't lights on the alley. You know, so it's about knowing what the rules are, you know, what does it say that's available to you, and then figuring out how to go about doing it. But once you create that visual heat map of showing, okay, these is where the lights are showing, and this is where the deficiencies are, you're able to more adequately address it. Then, is it actually that a light needs to be added here, or is it just that we need to trim the canopy? Because a lot of times that does contribute to the poor lighting as well. So, yeah, so it's really about how much we pour into it. If we're just complaining, we're probably not, because we're not giving them enough information. When we brought it to them and we got street lights involved, we got lamp posts involved. Man, remember we did in owner-occupied homes, we got more lighting, lamp posts installed in homes. So it's really about just the amount of work that we put in and being intentional about what are our issues, who do we connect with to try to resolve these issues, and then trying to get it done. That's what my experience was on the southeast side, but we were able to get it done.
A 3-year plan. Does that mean at the end of the 3 years that the city is planning on addressing all of those areas that they've identified?
For you talking about the streets plan? Yeah, the streets plan. So by the end of the 3-year plan, I think by the end of year 2, we're through the lowest 2 rate. You know, all of the 1s and 2s, which are the worst. 1s and 2s are the worst. 10s are new and in good condition. And then fair is 5 and 6. So we'll address all of the 1s and 2s, and before the end of the 3 years, then we move to the 3s and 4s. Of course, as time moves and there's winters, roads that are now 6s and 5s may move to 4s and 3s. So we have when we projected forward about what funding's needed to keep, moving our streets forward, we anticipate some level of deterioration of our streets just based off of historic. Of course, projections are one thing. A winter comes in and sometimes a 7 goes to a 3, or there's a sinkhole in there that causes issues. So, it's not perfect, but, across the city, within 3 years, the 3-year part of the plan, there's also a longer term plan too. We hope to have 1s, 2s, and 3s addressed, and hope that the winters don't catch us off guard and really change what are better roads now. So yeah, that's where we'll be at the end of the 3-year plan.
Website again?
You can look on it. It's southbend.gov / paving maybe. But if you go to the main page and the streets plan, there's a dashboard there for that.
We'll follow up, and there's a map that shows like all of the segments that are going to be intervened and what year. But as the mayor said, these conversations, again, this is good. We don't have an answer for you that, do what we're doing, but we're listening, and in many ways, based on these conversations, these tough conversations, it's what makes us go and say, he'll probably tomorrow go and say, I want a light.
So the other issue with the light, just so when the light is out, a lot of lights are owned by the power company. And so that's not to say we're pushing it off. We actually encourage you to report it to us, whether it's 311 or online. But what we do is we follow up with the power company. And so if it doesn't get addressed, or it gets addressed and it goes out right away again, we need to know that too, because sometimes the issue is with the connectivity to electricity. It's not, they change the light bulb and then it goes out again because there's some issue in the line. But that's got to be addressed by a lot of these have to be addressed by the power company. But the power company, we want to hear if it's not being fixed. We want to know that, because we want to go back to them and be able to say, hey, there's an issue here.
And so to your question around if there's a light that's not working, you can report it to 311 or AP. There's usually a number in the light bulb. If you tell us what light bulb, it's much easier, because then we can have, otherwise the crew shows up, and usually the crew works during the day, shows up, well, I don't know which light is the one, but if you have the number, they know which one's the one that they need to be checking. And if you report it to both 311 and AP, we can then follow up with AP and say, hey, have you fixed this?
I have a question. Can I ask now?
We have 2 questions, and Linda, and then we'll go to Ms.
Pardon me?
Ms. Wicker.
Can I ask my question now?
We have 3 questions on the floor. If you just give us a moment to get through the 3 questions on the floor, and then we'll come to you, number 4.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Shaw.
There are some lights, like in alleys, that they are connected to a property that they're in the alley. And I have them, and we called the electrical company, and they said, well, that belongs to this particular property, and if you want them, they must whatever. But they rent the property and but that light has never come on.
Yeah. That's those are challenging. I mean, those are things that frustrate us too, when it's a privately owned issue, whether it's a light or it's a building that's not being kept. Those are the things that drive us all crazy. So we got to figure out how to make that work.
Lighting's a good issue for this group, because we can only look at it from a city level. We don't know that there's a light out in your neighbor's backyard who's a renter, and we can't reach that person, but you can. So the solutions are amongst us, in between us, and you have money. So what's the plan that we come up with to put the lights on? So in a sense of answering Ms. Wicker's question, we can get there, but that's what I'm saying, these meetings are going to be a bit frustrating, because we can't go into every issue at this detail, but we're hoping that you can present some solutions to us that help us move closer to those outcomes. Ms. Sims, you have a question?
I know you talked about which direction and, how you go about, determining which streets that need, paving. But I'm having a problem hearing everybody, and the voices go and come. But, in Kennedy Park area, I think it's like 3 streets that have been paved. But those streets, maybe 1 car a day go down those streets. So, is there some kind of way that maybe they can look into it to get the streets fixed that really need it, that people drive on every day, more than just 1 person?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the rating is based on. So, I mean, if you take this out, the streets that are traveled on more often or have more traffic, they wear out faster. And so by constantly addressing, you know, the streets that are most in need, we'll get there. The problem that we've had is that is really, historically, when we haven't had the funding dedicated to street paving, we've ignored a lot of the less traveled neighborhood streets because they were dedicating the funding just to keep the main arteries going. So this plan is both. It's to keep the main arteries going and to get to neighborhood streets that haven't been touched. Some of them in many decades that haven't been touched. So if you have that's probably an example of a street that hasn't been touched in many decades, even though it's not traveled very much. It's something that we wanted to get to it and fix.
What's the name of this website? A couple people asked. So this is the street plan here online. I would also say, like, this is a good thing to take back to your neighborhood organizations and share with them, because it's a thing that people talk about all the time at your meetings. So, between that and lighting, you want Eric Corbat out on that, and those are things that.
No, there she goes.
Eric Corbat.
Oh, public works, all of those issues.
Is that
He
spelled
doesn't do that kind of planning.
E-R-E-K or E-R-I-C? How am I finding Eric Corbat? I want to be his best friend.
ERIC.
So we'll share the contact information as well as the street plan. And then Dominique, we have Ms. Marilyn and Leslie. Go ahead, Leslie. Sorry. I was gonna ask, what are the steps to getting a light turned on? Because for me, I've noticed if you know somebody, you get it on quicker. For an example, I have to really be nasty with my landlord for her to get it fixed. There's a light behind me, a street light in the alley, and there were a lot of activity going in my backyard. People dumping toilets and everything. I had to hold my rent for 2 months and be really nasty for her to turn it on. She knew somebody from the state office, and she got it turned on the very next day, and now it's working. I'm up to date with my rent, don't worry. So what are the steps for normal residents, renters, can take to get streets turned on without being mean?
Yeah, I mean, we when it's reported, we report it to AEP. Then if it's not addressed, if you come back and let us know that, we'll continue to push on AEP as much as we can. But if it's their light, sometimes I don't know what, I can't answer it exactly why they come or don't come. But you don't give up, I guess is the point. Like, we want to be persistent, and we'll help and be persistent.
And 311, Cynthia, when she sees that there's repeat calls about something, she will get on top of the person that's responsible for that and continuously ask, why is it that the issue is not resolved? Again, with lighting is hard because it's not the city department that's fixing it, it's AEP. So, but she reminds the city department that maybe Alkina has already mentioned, to try to make sure that they reach out to get the light fixed. So
what I'm hearing regarding the light is that we should call
AEP. INM, AEP.
Okay.
Power company.
Also call 311 and keep doing them until you're tired.
Until it's fixed, yeah.
Okay, all right. And on our end, we will start someone at AEP. relationship there. Because lights really make a difference. I have not had a toilet dumped in quite a while, and I'm very thankful. Lit space in my kitchen, like, when I look out, that's what I see. Like,
Again, with some of these, like, this is the point, you guys telling us that it matters and it's important, and we can't magically fix it, but we hear
I think
strongly how important it is.
have steps to how to fix this. Like, you know how you go to YouTube, like how to fix your oil in your car? I mean, in your lawnmower. I actually did it, it worked. You go to YouTube and it shows you the steps, and you can follow those steps. If we could do like short clips, hey, you have a problem with this, call this. This is the way to solve it, and keep doing it until it's fixed. Like,
Right.
that would help. Yeah.
What we learned is what we have to do.
Yeah.
So if you,
Tag number in the comments and somebody.
so if you go to, either you call 311 or you go to 311.southbend9.gov, for every government service that the city offers, there's like a, you know, like, what is the service, who's eligible, when can you request it? And again, all of that data is tracked, and you can actually, increasingly, they've been adding so that you can track to see, it's like the Domino's pizza, right? Like, you order, and you can see what step of the process it's in. So for several of these processes now, you can track it. So again, we're trying to make it easier for you to track and to see where it is at. And like, for instance, with traffic calming, we can't, it's hard and it's expensive to fix it, but last council meeting, Public Works was presenting in front of council, and they used the data of all the calls of 311, all the places that people had complained about traffic calming issues as areas that were going to be prioritized for traffic calming. So some of these things don't get fixed immediately, but you telling us, I know that it's frustrating because it seems like you tell us and then it doesn't get fixed. It takes a while, but it does somehow end up working out most of the times. And if not, you can always, we'll be here next quarter. Yeah.
That's good information, yeah. I
Yes.
wrote down what you said to share with Public Works.
Yeah, this is a really good guide, and again, we try to make it like, for everything that the city does, has it that you report that it is not working, or if there's something else, and you have it for over 600 services that the city provides are all there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Ms. Gashaw, you still online with us?
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am. Is the mayor still available?
I'm over here, yeah.
Oh, okay, wonderful. This is a complaint, and it's annoying. It's in my neighborhood. Some while ago, when I'm up the street from Bosch, when Bosch was here, and the city came through and they purchased a bunch of homes at the end of my street, and they put a meridian along Meade Street that turns into Bendix, and they do not take care of it. It's an eyesore. The grass is always overgrown. It's full of weeds. And I just happened to be riding through Mishawaka and saw something very similar, but it looked beautiful. And I wonder why the city doesn't pay more attention to some of the problems that they create in neighborhoods. We didn't ask for this design. You closed off some of our streets. People are now going through the alley because they can't take my street all the way through, which is Kenwood. And as a result, I've had the city come out and repave that alley. But there's a lot of wear and tear. I'm on the corner, so there's also wear and tear on my yard as a result. It's like the people weren't taken into consideration when the design was created. So now that it's there, my question is, what can the city do to do a better job at keeping that property, which is now yours, looking like you care?
That's a very good question.
And I asked the mayor because I would love for you to drive through just to see what I'm talking about. The overgrown weeds that are growing up along the curves, the overgrown weeds that are growing up through the grass, the trees. People are always, I think they speed going through, and they always are knocking down lights and trees and so forth, and the trees are not being replaced. The neighbors on the other street where Bertrand, where it's blocked off, that particular neighbor on the corner has a flooding problem. City has come out repeatedly and they claim there's nothing they can do about it. So you've created a problem in my neighborhood and we just want to get it addressed.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And, you know, we took on a lot of infrastructure over the years that we didn't have a plan to maintain it, and we're seeing the consequences of that now. That's one of the issues of the planning process. When we're doing these plans, we're looking at infrastructure. How does it work for the neighbors? Is it something the neighbors want? And is it going to be easy, you know, are we going to be able to maintain it? That's an important component to the planning process. I mean, for example, we planted, the city at some point in time, planted trees that the roots went sideways. And when the roots go sideways, you know, it lifts up the sidewalk. But now we know that, and so we plant trees with vertical roots that don't go. I mean, these are things you learn over time, or, you know, maybe at the time they didn't think about it, but, you know, we want to get better and we want to figure out how to fix these issues. Obviously, it's a big city, so, you know, we'll get to issues as fast as we can, but we do need to know about them so that, you know, I hope someone took notes here, Kenwood and Bendix.
Yeah, I've called 911 and reported it in the past, but like I said, if you just take Meade Street, 300, 400, 500 block of Meade, and then it turns into Bendix Drive, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I mean, the intention, you can tell that it has the possibility of looking really beautiful, like it looks like it should belong in Granger or someplace, but it happens to be on the west side, so it becomes an eyesore. Is the takeaway, okay? I'm not saying that that was the intent, but it definitely needs to be tended to a lot more frequently than it is.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. And two, I hope you guys are learning from some of the neighbors in here. She's like, yeah, I just got a whole alley paved. So there are ways that just pushing us to do more and holding us accountable gets things done. So it's hard on our end too. We don't like that it takes so long either, but we are happy to have allies with you. Dominique, I think that's all of our questions. 1 second.
You know how they went down diving and took the trees down, put the lamp posts up in all the yards and everything. They went down Western Avenue, they fixed up everything. They went down half a Linden, they put the lamp posts up in the yard. And the other part of Linden, they haven't did nothing in about 10 years.
Well, you got a whole neighborhood plan, so you good.
So the other end is not, it doesn't get done over there.
You got a great surprise coming. Dominique?
Yeah, so we're gonna move into the neighborhood news portion of the agenda. And so, the first thing that we will, let you know is that in Kennedy Park, there will be, pop-up markets on, Linden Avenue. So one of the themes of one of the the Kennedy Park neighborhood plans that has been identified as food security. And so the city is working towards an initiative in regards to food insecurity to address some of the issues that neighbors in Kennedy Park are faced with, which is access to fresh, healthy, affordable food. So starting in August on first Sunday, and you'll find that in your meeting packet, there will be pop-up markets happening, so from 1 to 5 p.m. So, and the markets will run from August to through October. So the dates for the markets are August 1st, September 5th, and October 3rd. And so there will be farmers there and other types of vendors there as well to, you know, give rise to food security in Kennedy Park. And we're also still looking for food vendors and things like that. So if anyone is interested, I believe there's also additional information in your meeting packet. So.
I was just going to recognize Dominique because she's one of the newer members of the team. And she's been able to create this new program in a very short amount of time. But I think they'll be really excited about us that we bring healthy food to Kennedy Park, that we bring good activity to Linden Avenue. So thank you for a lot of hard work, and hopefully we get people to come and participate in the pop-up markets.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ms. Also, in regards to neighborhood news, our Acts of Kindness grants are going into the third round. So those are our $250 mini grants, and the application will be live on our website by Friday. And so we'll go ahead and open the floor for any additional neighborhood news.
If you want to share some news about your neighborhood.
Anything that you have going on, like in budget week, like sharing the also, you can have the neighborhood report, which we do monthly, so we like to share, law, does that work? Basically what everyone is doing, so that you know, and that you also have a chance to learn from each other.
Well, one of the things when Councilwoman Legowski gets back, we're going to be working with them also on the lead initiative program that's going to be starting soon with Channel 16 and actually getting other neighborhoods involved, as well as our Councilman Kenneth Lee is going to be on that committee as well. And South Bend Tennis Association will be joining efforts, starting with the Near North Side Neighborhood Association, to try to work on them. Now, I know that the lead problem there is the worst in the state of Indiana. In your own backyard, that's a problem. So we want to try to get as many people so we can use the grant dollars that's been allotted to them to go ahead and get many people as we can. Renters, landowners alike, to make sure that they're safe in their housing. There have been incidents of lead poisoning and et cetera. We had problem with lead and mold when I first got into this organization almost 3 years ago with Western Manor. They had some of the worst concentrated lead and mold concentration ever in this state. It was crazy. So we're going to renew our efforts in trying to go back there, and we're also working with the project on helping low-income people become ownership. And we're doing it on virtual. We're going to try to do a model of this the same way you guys do. So pray on us, because we're going to need some help. Yeah, because we're going to do live streaming with some of the seniors, because a lot of seniors don't have computers. So we're going to have them to come out actually in the class in a tent atmosphere with hot dogs and little refreshments and et cetera. Then they're learning along with First Source Bank. We're creating that model for them. And if that model does work, and there are going to be some people attending from Miami Hills, the next set of people we're going to work on are those. And then we're going to try to open up citywide about these financial independent stewardship, which how do you take care of your apartment? Budgeting. There are going to be several online classes that we're going to already have with South Bend Tennis Association working with that group. So they're our first test models out. So if that works with that community, we're going to go forward with another community. And any of the communities, associations that have renters and tenants alike that's interested in getting us forward, just let me know. Come to me, I'll get you my business card and I'll show you what our model looks like. I got some Notre Dame interns working on those models.
Yeah, we're doing on the southeast side of Mount Carmel Church next month on the 10th. We'll be doing a back to school event. They'll have a couple speakers. One is Marla Gadet, talking about how to navigate the school system with a child with IEP, as well as somebody from 21st Century College as well, giving out information. And we'll also be signing people up for citywide classroom as well. So if you're able, from my understanding, if you qualify kids qualify for free or reduced lunch, you can get access to this for either as mobile hotspots or is access to Wi-Fi as well, is that correct? We'll be getting people signed up for the citywide classroom. The goal is also to have PCs for people there as well, to where you can buy like refurbished computers for like $100. And what we're really trying to do is trying to get the community to take advantage of this, because what the data is showing is that in certain communities, certain schools, even though there are a lot of people that are eligible for this free benefit, people aren't taking advantage of it. So we're just trying to bring more awareness for it and get people signed up. So that'll be August 10th, I believe, from 4 to 7. There'll be food as well. Like I said, speakers, PCs for people, citywide classroom sign up. So if you're interested, you know, August 10th it's a nice day. Please show up.
Do we have any other business?
Kennedy Park Neighborhood Association is having a community social on Saturday, July the 24th, from 2 o'clock to 7 o'clock. Community bringing the community out after COVID, and also to have to raise awareness about the survey. And we're going to be holding like a volunteer drive. We're going to pass out 1,700 flyers to each door from the grassroots, boots on the ground campaign. So myself and the members from KP&A in the department are going to actually go out and hit those doors with the flyers and also the surveys, so that we can get more feedback from the planners. And we hope for a large turnout. And if you live in the park area, you know someone, going to be free food, bouncy houses, face paint, TV, like snow cones, fire trucks for the children, or other little games and things like that. It should be good.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're gonna have all that too. And I forgot to also mention, my apologies, that we also, I work for an organization that launched a digital learning platform last year called Bendable. We partner with the library, and what it is, essentially, there's over 2,000 resources on this platform, and all of them are free to the end with a library card. So we will also be hopefully getting people to sign up for Bendable as well and taking advantage of that. So just something else that will be going on that day.
Any more information online or otherwise?
River Park's doing T-shirt contests, and we can start having pride in our area. And we also, our neighbors in one of the churches do Healthy Neighbors, where we're doing food drives. So we can give food and then give it back out to the neighbors who need it.
I'll do a quick plug for the Small Business Launchpad that our Office of Diversity and Inclusion is putting together in partnership with our department, with Community Investment and with VPA. It'll be from 10 to 7 on July 17th in Charles Black, in LaSalle Park. And it'll include a number of small businesses that have been working on getting access to resources so they can thrive and do interesting stuff. And there'll be a lot of really interesting new businesses there, so you can go and check them out and hopefully give them a little bit of support. These are people that live in all of your neighborhood associations, and they're trying to grow and have great, successful businesses.
What date is that again?
This is July 17th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And should be pretty good. I think that there's going to be music and a lot of good stuff there. It's in Charles Black in LaSalle Park.
No count.
Also, maybe green all the things that you have going, active kindness grant, you can use that as a resource for outreach work.
And that's in that packet.
Everything's in the service catalog. We might have some extra hard copies in here, but everybody.
Also send out additional copies.
We're also gonna follow up with the things that we discussed tonight, so presentation, Eric Corbach, or something.
That poor man.
So everybody else on there, we'll find somebody else.
I don't even know who he is. I feel bad for him.
Poor guy.
I would suggest though, the first person to hold accountable should be your council person.
Yeah.
Your council people should be able, especially on things like they have a program called Let Us Out, and
Okay.
Our neighborhood, the far northwest, we're working on making a list of, I like to call it the, African American and Hispanic contractors. We're trying to build a home, and instead of using, I'm trying to watch my words.
white contractors.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So instead of using white contractors, which they are normally the first choice, we're trying to find African American and Hispanic contractors to build this house, because we don't feel comfortable with going with the same routine of just going straight to Cold Stone, and the same people are getting fed and not really supporting the smaller businesses. So if you know of any small business contractors, please reach out to us, because we really want to support our community, and we're trying to build a home in our neighborhood to move people from renters to homeowners with using small businesses and people that look like us, like me, to build the home, and so to grow generation wealth within smaller communities instead of the big guys.
You have all the work.
Thank you. I was nervous.
Your money is here, and so, we will continue to be in this event.
I want to commend you all for the wonderful things that you talk about your neighborhood, association has been doing. In Kenny, in Lincoln Business Park, we have a couple of particular issues, that we're going to be dealing with. It's not something, to what you all are talking about. We have a very real issue about, the possibility of a new service gas station coming to our neighborhood, and we will be convening amongst ourselves to strategize about engaging with the possible owners of this place about, being a responsible, business owner. And because a couple of the places in our neighborhood, because we border with ours and Michigan, and so on and so forth, and business. And we also, going to be discussing very deliberately, include our voice and what's going on with regards to 19, and that, becoming not just a temporary shelter to ease the tension that was going on in 10 cities on the south, and now, but becoming a permanent, which, everyone has to traverse from there to our neighborhood to get to the center of town. So, once again, I applaud, I hope to participate in something like this, if I can be instrumental in helpful, with someone that way, if I someone in that area. But we have real touchy issues in our area, because we are concentrating on mostly homeowners, but we holler around a whole bunch of problems, that come through our streets, our alleys, and so on and so forth. So we're going to be dealing with this issue, and I heard people in this room talk about, working together, neighborhood learning from one another and stuff. So I'm going to be held accountable, I'm going to hold you all accountable, so we're calling for, fight for support, ideas or whatever, so I have to continue to deal with this issue. I hope that you learn.
Thank you. Do we have any more neighborhood news? No, we're already at 9 o'clock.
I have one comment, sorry. I keep hearing, like, what I'm hearing is like renters are bad. We're not bad at all.
No, you're not.
And like for me, like it bothers me when I hear like renters are being diluted. I take care of my home. I value my home. Well, it's not mine, but I value the space that I lay my head in. And not all renters are bad. I think what we need to focus on is how can we change mindsets, and have people learn how to be prideful of where they lay their head, and not everybody should be homeowners. Not everybody want to be homeowners, but everybody should have value in where they lay their head at. And I think that's how we need to switch the language of renters versus homeowners, because every time I hear you guys say renters, my body cringe because it's negative. And I just would like for us to alter our language around renters and homeowners, because not everybody, it's the mindset that we need to work on changing and not the title.
Well, and landlords too.
Yeah.
That's,
And I'm guilty of the landlord issue. I will bash some landlords quickly. I'm very guilty of that.
You don't say.
No.
Don't say.
Ms. Collier, did you have something to wrap up with? Thank you. And thanks to everybody again for coming out. Our first, I would thank everybody online for hanging in there with us. I again want to say this is for sharing information, for getting more inclusive voice, for learning. Like, thank you for that. You have all the words, and you taught us, I think, your neighbors. And this is a space that we always appreciate. So that's how I started everything.
Good job.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you, and thank you, Alkina, too.
Thank you for being here. I'll be at the grab.
Make sure you pay out, if you haven't already, yeah.